Christmas can be one big pressure cooker, don't you think? Between the people and the places and the expectations we put on ourselves and other people put on us, and the expectations we perceive other people are putting on us. The spaces where we have to go and inhabit, the expectations around togetherness and what we do and what we eat. Honestly, it is no surprise that for many, many, many people, Christmas conflict is the biggest problem at this time of year. They don't know what's going to come up, well, they do know what's going to come up, and they don't know how to handle it. So this training today is all about giving you tools to help you understand what's going on, catch what's going on before it explodes, and so that you can actually have an enjoyable Christmas with a plan to handle whatever comes your way. Let's make the Christmas meal and debate not turn into a debacle. So hang tight and we'll get right to it. Have you ever actually seen a pressure cooker? My grandma had one, and it would usually come out at about this time of year, and she'd be cooking all sorts of amazing things in it ready for the Christmas table. But what it is, it's a saucepan basically. So here's a sketch I prepared earlier. So you put your food in here, you clamp the lid on, put it on the stove, and the pressure builds up really, really fast. And so the temperature goes up, and so whatever you've got in there cooks faster. Problem is, you cannot forget that you have left it on the stove. Or else you come back and you see this little valve up the top? Yeah, your food gets pureed onto the ceiling. It's not a pretty sight. But I like using this as a metaphor for anger and for conflict, because this is what happens. At this time of year, we get so pressurized with all of the expectations and the stuff that we have to do and the people we have to see and the places we have to go. And it's like this lid gets clamped on the top because, this is the most wonderful time of the year. And the pressure just builds and builds and builds. And if we don't know how to, open up that valve, we don't know that we need to unclamp the lid, loosen the lid. We don't know that we need to take it off the stove. Right? So, what I want to take you through now is just a quick model of how I think about conflict using a pressure cooker. And therefore, it's going to give you tools and ideas on how you can actually deal with this in your situation this Christmas. Okay? Right. Let's start. Okay, so let's start with a valve, right? I'm trying to figure out. Yep, there we go. So, the valve lets off steam. Okay? And that's what we need to do. If you're going to a pressurized, conflict-ridden situation, you need to go in with a plan to know how you can let off steam. And the easiest place to start is with just your physical body, right? We've talked about how there is a feedback loop between your body and your brain and your mind. And when your mind reads your body being tense, it goes into threat mode, it goes into fight mode, it goes into conflict mode. So you need to know how to recognize that loop when it's happening and do something that turns it off, or at least turns it down a bit. And the easiest ways to do that are by physically relaxing your muscles and just by slowing your breathing down. You breathe in and out. Okay, the human body is not designed to breathe really fast. Try it. You'll hyperventilate and you'll feel really off really fast. You breathe in and out. In and out. So basically we're meant to breathe about maybe 8 to 10 times a minute. So if you breathe in for 3 seconds and out for 4 seconds, that is a really good letting off steam tool, okay? Use it. The other thing is relax your body, okay? We are so used to being pressured and under pressure and under tension that our body braces for that day to day. It's horrible. So I want you to know what your body looks like, what your body feels like when you are relaxed. Okay? Your hands are not like this. They're like this. Your shoulders are not like this. They are relaxed. You drop your shoulders, roll them a few times, okay? When you've got good relaxed posture, basically, your Shoulders stack over your ribs, stack over your pelvis. Okay? Let that line run up and down through your body. Let there be, just this straight, relaxed flow. Okay? And your jaw is loose, not you loosen it. Okay? So make it so that you're almost, your mouth is closed, but your teeth aren't touching. I'm really focused on the camera right now, so I'm not even paying attention to what I look like. But yeah, it's just like, notice what your jaw is doing. Notice what your shoulders are doing. Notice what your chest is doing, okay? If you're like this, your body's kind of in defensive mode. Just automatically, just simply because that's the posture, okay? So stack your shoulders over your ribs, over your pelvis. Use your core muscles. Make sure you're using your abs to kind of support yourself. And just breathe. Breathe in and out. Okay? Those are two very easy things to do without anyone ever needing to know that you're doing them. Use them. That is an easy way that you can let off steam so that the whole pot doesn't explode. Okay, next step. Loosen the lid. Okay? The lid has this massive seal on it. With these little clamps, you basically pull into position and clip it into place so that no air, no heat, no steam escapes except through that little valve. Another quick thing you can do to loosen the lid, to reduce the pressure, is to loosen the lid, loosen the expectations that you have on yourself. Now, I've spent so much time talking about what's important to you, who matters to you, who's important to you, okay? That falls in this area, okay? If you can loosen your expectations on yourself, if you can loosen your expectations on others, that is going to go a really, really long way to helping you navigate the Christmas conflict. I mean, think about it. Certain things, certain ideals matter to you. Every single other person around that table has other ideals that matter equally much to them. And when all of those things are trying to occupy the one space at the one time, there is friction. And look, honestly, it's normal. When you've got multiple different perspectives, multiple different viewpoints, multiple different things that matter, all competing to be heard in the one space, friction and conflict is a very normal thing to have happen, because you've got to figure out how all of these things can operate and coexist in the one space. So, and you know what? If we went around that table and we said to the people around there, hey, does the kind of food that we eat matter to you? Yes. Does the kind of food you eat matter to you? Yes. We can all say that, the food that we eat, it's okay for that food to matter to that person and this food to matter to that person. The political and ideological affiliations that we have on what matters to us in terms of how our country's run and who runs it and what all the different things are that matter. I mean, people value their jobs. They value an economy that supports jobs, and that's okay. People value drought support. People value climate change. Each of those things is okay. It really, really is. But where we start running into trouble is when what matters to us starts getting a should attached to it. Climate change, having healthy, effective conversations around climate change is something that really, really matters to me. But it's not necessarily going to matter so much to my 10-year-old daughter. Right? It will do one day, but it doesn't now. But if I then put the expectation on that, hey, I should be able to bring this up at the table and everyone should agree with me, you can see how we wander into conflict zone pretty fast. So, I want you to be aware that because stuff matters to you, it matters to you. It absolutely must matter to you. It should matter to you. It is important to you. I want you to keep that. But be aware that when we start putting rules around it, that's when the conflict starts happening. Because I think this matters, therefore I should do this. And they think that whatever it is that is important to them matters, and therefore they should do that. And when my should comes into conflict with their should, right? So let's acknowledge that we all have stuff that matters to us, and it's different from everyone else's, and that's okay because we are made differently. We have different life experiences, different perspectives. These different things matter to each of us. So how about we skip the shoulds and we just focus in on, okay, this is important to me. How can I act in a way that honors that? That stuff is important to them. How can they act, how can I leave them room for them to act in a way that honors that for them? This is by no means an easy situation to fix a lot of the time because we are so desperately embedded in these shoulds and the musts and I have tos and I ought tos. And therefore everyone else should and must and has to and ought to. And look, it's messy. But we can only take responsibility for our own stuff. So when you have a value, when you have something that's important and matters to you, focus in on that. And think about how could I enact that today, rather than how should I or how should they respond. Okay? It's a subtle difference, but it will help. And I've just realized I've been popping my glasses on and off, so my apologies, but I'm not going to go back into any of this. Okay. Next step is looking at the heat source, okay? Remember, if you leave the pressure cooker on the heat source for too long, everything goes everywhere. So, when we're thinking about dealing with the heat source of Christmas conflict, we're talking about the immediate triggers, okay? We're talking about the actual stuff that is happening on the day that is heating everything up. So it might be, look, it's going to be the people around you. It's going to be the place that you're in. If you're an introvert like me, look, I love people. I love spending time with people, but I have a limit, okay? I cannot spend much time around a big group of people without going, oh, I just need to get out of here, okay? So be mindful of what some of your own triggers are. If you need to be able to step out and make some space away from all of the people and all of the noise and all of the heat, then come up with a way of doing that, okay? Maybe it's going to be like, okay, I'm just going to go for a post-lunch walk around the block and I'll be back in 10 minutes. Maybe it's suggesting that you go and sit around the table and play a board game. Maybe it's going, I'm in Australia, we go for swims. Maybe it's going to be, okay, I'm just going to go and have a quick dip in the pool. You want to change the context that you're in so that those triggers aren't as heating, aren't as explosive. If it's a time factor, if you know that, by tweaking the amount of time that you're in that situation is going to help you, then think of ways to do that. If you know that certain activities are going to put the heat on for you, then come up with ways of not having them. Negotiate for other options. And I'll get to that in a minute. But look at this. Think about the stuff that is guaranteed to make you start hitting the boiling point faster, and come up with ways of turning the heat down, taking the pot off the stove. Okay, so removing the triggers or removing yourself from the triggers. Okay, it's not a long-term solution, but it will help you deal with it on the day. Okay, final thing to think about is the contents of your pressure cooker, okay? These are your thoughts and your feelings and your memories and your opinions and your beliefs, previous experience, basically all the words that you carry around in your head that have built up over time through interaction, from experience, from learning, okay? All of this stuff. And conflict is driven by this stuff, okay? It's like, one of the other metaphors I use for conflict is it's like a storm, okay? And a storm continues until the imbalances, the air and pressure imbalances in the atmosphere that created it, when they dissipate, the storm stops. And conflict is similar. It is driven by these offshore forces, this stuff inside that we just often don't realize is there. Okay? And it's okay for you not realize it's there. That in itself is a survival technique that our minds give us so that we can just get through day to day and go, yeah, there's all this stuff in there, but I don't need to worry about that right now. Right? But when it comes to dealing with conflict, it's that inner content, wordy stuff that drives it. And yes, that's going to be your values conflicting with someone else's. And that's going to be your lived experience with these other people and the feelings and emotions that have developed as a result of your ongoing interactions with them and the habits that have been created in the way that you together deal with, stress and anxiety in your family system. And the way that you have been taught over decades that this is how we deal with conflict, and this is how we deal with pressure, and this is how we deal with anxiety, and this is how we deal with sensitivity. We either talk it to death, or we fight about it, or we ignore it, or maybe we slowly sort it out bit by bit. It is entirely up to you what you want to do with this inner content stuff this Christmas. Okay, it is entirely up to you. If you want to leave it, then you can leave it. If you want to talk about it, then you can try talking about it. If you want to try and take some of it out, get some of it sorted so that there is less stuff in there to simmer away and explode for next time, try it. Okay? My point is, be aware that Christmas conflict is driven by this internal wordy stuff that we carry around. What do you want to do with it? If you want to just leave all of that stuff in there, then you can leave that stuff in there. Be mindful then that you will need to look for ways to reduce the heat. Okay? Look for ways to reduce the immediate triggers. Take the pot off the heat, remember? You need to come up with ways to loosen the lid. Okay? You've got to come up with some different ways that you talk to yourself, different ways that you hang on to what's important to you. You would need to be using more of those could words rather than the should words. And you need to be looking for ways to release the steam, to let off steam. And the easiest way to do that is by breathing, by relaxing your body, and probably getting out and going for a walk. Okay? Those are my key ideas around how you can handle the conflict on the day this year. But what if you want to try and do something about it? Okay, so if you want to deal with your conflict, if you want to try and resolve it, then I'm going to recommend a particular model to you. It's not the only one that's out there by any stretch of the imagination, but it sums things up nicely in a nutshell. And it involves you thinking about how willing you are to speak about and negotiate on behalf of your own needs, and how willing you are to deal with other people's needs, and vice versa. Okay? So we're looking at here at the levels of, assertiveness, the way we deal with our own needs, and cooperativeness, the way we look out for others' needs. Now, how do you usually show up in conflict? Do you prioritize your own needs? Do you prioritize others' needs? At what levels? Okay? Different people do this in different ways. Okay, some of us take I'm not going to talk about my own needs because that's scary, I might get rejected, I will just look after other people's needs. Someone else might go, I'm only going to look after my own needs because no one else is going to. Therefore, I'm just going to be entirely focused on my own needs and not worry about other people. And some people take a middle ground, right? They look after both their own and others at about the same level. And they're not really intense about it. It's just, let's just do this. Okay? So have a think. What do you typically do? Do you prioritize your own needs? Do you minimize your own needs? Do you prioritize other people's needs? Do you not prioritize other people's needs? Or are you somewhere in the middle? Okay. You need to be aware of what your own tendency is as you go into this situation. And then, have an idea of how the other person might respond as well. Are they going to be more likely to prioritize their own needs or yours or both? So I've got a little chart here that I am drawing up for you. See? We're talking about your own needs and talking about others' needs. Now, if you are going to go into a situation and you want to minimize your own needs, but also you're not going to be terribly interested in other people's needs, or you know that they're going to be like that for you, avoiding the conflict, avoiding the problem is a reasonable short-term solution. It's not going to fix things. It is not going to fix things. Avoidance works in the short term. It does not work in the long term. I want to be very clear about that. But it is a viable option for you in this situation where you can't deal with your own needs, they can't deal with your needs, you can't deal with their needs, they can't deal with their needs, okay? It happens, okay? It fits in the model. If that is what needs to happen, then do that. Okay. Next, you can accommodate, okay? If you are high prioritizing other people's needs but minimizing your own, then you're accommodating, okay? That might also work. But you have to be sensitive to the situation itself to figure out whether or not that is actually a viable option for you. Next, competing. If you or someone else is low on focusing on other people's needs, but they're really highly focused on their own, then this is going to be what's going to be happening. There's going to be an element of competition in there because my stuff matters, therefore we need to do it my way, okay? Again, if that is going to work for the situation you're in, then that's what you follow. Again, I'm not in favor of it myself because obviously I'm very heavily other people focused. But there's got to be a situation out there for which that is a viable option. So I want you to know that it's there. Okay. Now we all know what this word is, compromise, okay? This is what goes in the middle. If you have like a medium amount of attention to your own needs, medium amount of attention to others' needs, then you compromise, okay? It's about, this stuff matters to me, this stuff matters to you. How can we both kind of get halfway? Maybe not everyone's happy, but everyone's not unhappy either. That is an option, okay? But my favorite is collaborating. Yeah? Prioritizing your own stuff, prioritizing other people's stuff so that everyone gets what matters to them, that they are able to connect with that and engage with that and enact that in whatever situation we are in. So we've talked about, how different things matter to different people. But if we ask everyone at that table that you're sitting around right now, or on Christmas Day, who is important to you, you are going to get the same kind of answers. What is important to you might change, but who is important, who matters to you, that's where you start. Okay? And then we can acknowledge that, yucky stuff comes up inside and the shoulds start coming up and the rules and the expectations we put on ourselves and that we perceive others are putting on us and the pressure and the pain and the fear and the anxiety and the worry and the ego, all of that comes up for everyone, okay? Everyone has some yucky stuff that comes up inside, and so we can go, I've got yucky stuff coming up too. What do we do in response to that? Do we yell? Do we cry? Do we withdraw? Do we shut down? Do we minimize? Do we put it off? Do we go spend time binging on Netflix and looking at Facebook on our phone rather than engaging with the person opposite because that is uncomfortable? Again, we can all find common ground there. So then the question is, okay, so if, we spend so much of our time and energy just moving away from the stuff that makes us feel uncomfortable, then all the stuff that matters to us, the people who matter to us, we spend less time on. Maybe we can each together talk about, what's one way that we actually want to show who's important to us? What's one way we can show what matters to us? And is there a way for those different things to all be in the same space? There usually is. In some way, some shape, some form. It may not be enough in the long term, but in the short term, there can be stuff that sits there. So you can have that conversation. You can talk about what matters. You can talk about who matters. And you can talk about the different ways that you can enact that. Whether it be just at the Christmas table, or for the rest of your life, or anywhere in between. Because we are here because people matter. So I want to encourage you to look at that. And remember that you're watching this. You clicked on the Christmas conflict thing because someone matters. You matter. Your health matters. The people around you that you love and you serve, they matter. You have got ways to deal with this. You've got ways to move with this. And I encourage you to find them and to tell us about them. I'll catch you later.